back to the channel, guys. I thought I'd put this little video together just to have a little look at the tune that I used to set the final time. Finally managed to finish above Neil here. Really brilliant battle, especially Malvern as well, and OTR wrote. I'm guessing he was the first into the 17s, and I've got to put it to Neil. He was a great inspiration to push myself a little bit harder and try and find just that extra mile, really. So really great battle with Krave. So I'll just go through this tune. Okay, so if we just have a little look at the tune, and you can see I've altered the tyre temperatures, the tyre pressures quite a bit from the original ones. If you load up the original set to defaults, I just gradually worked through the tyre pressures till I got more and more grip, to be honest. And then on the rear I wanted more rear grip, and again probably looking at the downforce, just added 2 clicks more at the rear. Initially I brought this down because I just wanted more straight line speed on the straights, but it became more and more evident that going round the long right-handers, and there's 2 quite long right-handers during this circuit, that you really want to be having the power down as soon as you can, and you also want to be powering through the corner, and lowering the rear downforce just didn't allow you to get the power down. I also tried reducing the brake pressure initially. This was down at around 80%, maybe even lower than 80%. And I just found, especially through this section of the circuit, with the high brake pressure, I found that the rear end of the car was wanting to step out under braking. But I also realised after this long back straight, as you're coming into the big stopping area, I was losing out too much on the brake distance. So I had to increase this brake pressure back to around the 90 mark, but just learn to really feather the brake, especially on the last section, the tight right-hander after this section here. As you come into E, you're just sort of tapping the brake and allowing it to drift round. What else did I change? Maybe close the brake ducts a little bit just to keep the pressure, just to keep the resistance. I think it does cause a little bit of wind resistance the wider they are open, and you're only doing 1 flying lap, so there's no need to really watch too much on the brakes. I'd open them up a little bit. I did have them closed initially, but I found towards the end of the lap the brakes were fading a little bit. I think they were just getting overheated. Moving on to suspension. Again, this was just time consuming really, but over 3 days of tuning, gradually I found a happy medium. I think I did try at 400, and I tried down towards 4.0. I tried down towards 3.0, settling on the 3.7. Ride height, I think, is not as low as it will go, but almost there. I think it was bottoming out as you come up this and you dip down again into the next right left. It was just seemed to understeer a little bit too much with it totally bottomed out, but really 2 clicks, 2 millimeters, it's neither here nor there. And a strange one this really, because usually I would try and set the rears much softer, but because it suffered a little bit with the understeer, I've reduced the front springs more, and obviously we've got much more rear downforce, so the rear of the car is getting a lot of rear downforce anyway, so to try and combat the understeer effect, I'd really softened the front springs out, and the rear ride height is a little bit higher to try and stop the front understeer again, or the rear oversteer. Again, onto steering ratio, I've got this set as low as it possibly goes, just to get from lock to lock, that's full lock, and again full lock. I think I've got this set on 300 degrees rotation. But the steering lock, just as little as I can so that you can really throw the car in, but you're just really tentative on your inputs. Again, the front toe-in angle, just drop this down to 0.2 just to get a little bit more response out of the front turning. And again, the anti-roll bar, I think this is around 80 standard. So just lowering that again to try and combat any mid-corner understeer. And I think the rear was about 40 standard, so that's just dropped a tiny bit. But again, the toe angle, as you come along the back straight and you come into a very sharp right-hander, getting the toe angle here down to 0.4 or increasing it to 0.4 was to really allow me to get the car straight out of that turn. It seemed to always want to understeer, and you really want to get on the throttle nice and early as you come out of that corner. So that was to try and keep the car straight and power out of there. Also, if you notice that the camber angle is different from one side of the car to the other, because there are so many long left-handers, I've got more camber on the left side of the car, so the left wheel's like this, and so that you've got, it's sort of like that exaggerated. You've got one angle like that, and the other side of the car is much flatter, because we're trying to get more of the tyre to sit on the ground as we're going round the left-handers. So I just lowered that a little bit, but there are right-handed turns that it needs to be, so I couldn't really alter that too much. So this was like a happy medium, just softening the right-hand side of the car a little bit to add a little bit, or to add less camber on the right-hand side of the car. Moving to the dampers, just minor adjustments on here. I can't even remember what I've tweaked where, looking back at the defaults. So you'd have to click the defaults. I've probably made very little adjustments on there. But again, if ever you're running bump, the rebound's always going to be a higher figure. That's how I work out my rebound and bump. Same for your fast bump and rebound. So obviously, time trial, you don't need any fuel, although it doesn't really register the fuel, but I always put it down to 0. But it usually adds 5 litres of fuel. And again, we can close out the radiator because we're only going to do 1 lap. We use all the curves almost throughout 1 lap, so we're never going to go and do 2 flying laps. The brake, I think you can go to 8. So just 2 clicks on the brake. And that, I think that was just to try and get the car to turn a little bit more when we're off throttle. A minor adjustment to second gear, which was a real benefit in one of the areas which I'll talk through when it comes to gear ratios. And I think I've adjusted 4th gear and 3rd gear, but you're barely in 5th gear, so I lowered that a little bit as well. And we never even touched 6th gear. Coming down to traction control is off, and ABS, I think ABS is also off. So that doesn't really play a part. Moving to the differential. I tried this at around 100, tried it around 40, tried it around 60, 80 seemed to be a happy medium. Clutches, when we look at power ramp, I always think the lower the figure, the more chance you've got of oversteering. The more power is going to go down when you exit a corner. When you start bringing this figure down, you're going to be looking at drifting out of the corner. If you bang it up towards 90, you'd be lucky to get the rear end to step out at all when you put the acceleration on. So as you bring that round, you're looking at turning the car, coming out of a corner, which can be beneficial to tighten the corner up. And again, with the coast ramp, if you set this at around 60, the car's going to turn a lot more under braking. So bringing it down towards 25 is going to stop the rear end of the car turning as you're coming into brake. So if the car's oversteering on it on corner entry, under braking, I'd always try and bring the coast ramp down a bit. Again with the preload, if the car's understeering on entry into the corner, which is you're struggling to get the car to turn, I'd increase the preload, and that's it for the tune. We'll just have a little drive around the circuit, and I'll just talk around the lap. I'll not have the sound on, so as you come into here, you're just touching the brake pedal, and it just allows the car to drift round. And right now when I'm accelerating from here, I'm pressing, you get 10 kers, or push to pass, whatever you want to call it. You get 10 of those throughout the lap, and we'll use 8 of them. So right now I bang one of those and we set off. So I'll just, for argument's sake, and I know you're thinking, well, why is he doing it now? Because he's still braking for this corner. But we'll fly around here in second gear, up into third, and then by about here, you'll be able to hit the next amount of kers. I think it's around here I'll hit it again. So we go down to 8, and then we're up to fifth gear through this section. And just as we come through here, we're going to drop it down a gear into fourth gear, and you're 100% on the power again as soon as you can, dropping it down to third and sort of trying to clip across there. Doesn't matter if you hit it, doesn't. And again, all the way through here, you're almost flat out. And if you can get up into fourth gear, that's brilliant, because the downshift into third just really settles the car as it comes through here. And again, as you come out of here, or maybe even sooner, banging again for the push to pass, so you can nail it all the way down here. And there is an option further down here to press the button again, but I don't do that. So we're up into fourth, fifth. Just as you come over here and the car settles again, heavy on the brake, coming right the way down to second gear and just easing off the brake pedal to allow yourself to just drift round here. And as soon as the car's straight again, we're pushing push to pass, back on the throttle as soon as you can, and all the way down here, a tiny lift, and try and keep it on the inside all the way through here, just allowing it to drift out a little bit. And you'll be up to about fifth gear here, dropping it down twice into third gear through here, and stay through third. Try and take as much corner here as you can, and again bang on the kers. So all the way down here, brake, 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 second gear, and then first gear right on this apex to try and get the car to come round, straight up into second, and bang that kers button again. Sometimes you get the kers around here because you pushed it a bit further back. And again, up to about fourth gear through here, braking hard again where you see the brake, the track colour change. And then we're down into second gear as you come through here. Try not to clip this curb too much because it has a tendency to pull you around. And then just flying through, taking that nice tight line and straight on the power. You can dip the nose a little bit here by just touching the brake pedal to stop it getting too airborne. But I've totally forgot to do that in my flying lap. So as soon as the car lands, bang, next kers up to third gear, and I just drop it down to second as we come through here. Try and take a tiny bit of curb and just squeezing the power between each turn. And again, you're trying to get the best line here, dropping it down to first, and it just really tightens up the car. Back on the power, kers button again as you come through here straight away. And again, just drifting round here as fast as you can through there, up to third. And again, you can get one last push of the kers button before you go over the line. So we'll look at that again at the flying lap at full speed and just try and get an idea of what's going on. But it's a really great car and track combination. And spending 3 or 4 days at this time trial was a brilliant event, I think. It certainly gave myself and a couple of other drivers some entertainment, and hopefully it entertained a couple of other guys during the Facebook posts that I use. And that was that. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for the little walkthrough, and hope you can better your own times with that setup. Cheers, guys. So I just wanted to add a little note here as to lowering the second gear ratio. Coming out of this last, you've just come down the flying back straight, you've come into here and dropped down into second gear to take this corner. But coming out of this corner, you really want to be on the power nice and early and getting as much acceleration out of here as possible. So I just dropped to second gear, primarily for the next corner coming up, which I'll talk about, but it certainly benefited acceleration out of this corner. So this was the main reason that I lowered the second gear ratio. As I was coming down into this corner and I was dropping down the gears, as I dropped down to first gear for this corner, I was always missing going into first gear, and I was ending up trying to hit this first gear again and again, which also cost me losing a lot of time running wide because it had not dropped a gear. So by lowering the gear ratio, it allowed me to get into first gear much sooner. So that concludes the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time.